Dr. Rena Voss pressed her forehead against the cool glass of her laboratory window, watching rain streak down the pane in chaotic patterns. The same patterns she'd been tracking across star systems for the past 3 years. The same patterns everyone else called coincidence. "Your findings are circumstantial, Dr. Voss," echoed the words of High Counselor Meredith from that morning's disastrous presentation. "The Galactic Council appreciates Earth's enthusiasm, but perhaps you should focus on more productive research." Productive research. Like studying already documented species or cataloging known phenomena. Anything but suggesting that the recent wave of pirate attacks across the outer colonies followed a deliberate pattern indicating coordinated military strikes. The holographic display behind her chirped with another alert. Another attack, this time on a mining outpost in the Centauri sector. Rena spun around, her dark eyes scanning the incoming data. The same signature energy readings. The same precise timing between strikes. The same careful selection of targets that seemed random unless you understood human military history. "Display overlay pattern Voss 7, she commanded. The hologram shifted, showing a three-dimensional map of known space. Red dots marked each attack site. When connected, they formed an expanding spiral, like a noose slowly tightening around Earth's sphere of influence. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Come in, Zwaxtar," she called, recognizing the unique biosignature. The door slid open with a whisper, revealing her research partner's towering frame. The Axarani scientist had to duck to enter, his iridescent scales shifting color with each movement. "I watched the council recording," he said, his translator converting complex harmonic tones into clear English. "They are fools." Rena managed a bitter smile. "They're politicians. Being foolish is an occupational requirement." She gestured to the hologram. Another attack. Same pattern. Zwaxtar's inner eyelids flickered, his species equivalent of a frown. "The Council believes humans are being paranoid. That your species' violent history makes you see threats where none exist. Our violent history is precisely why we recognize these patterns," Rena countered. "Every major military campaign in Earth's history started this way, probing attacks, testing defenses, establishing control of key resource points." She walked through the hologram, scattering light motes. "Whatever's coming, it's big. And we're running out of time." Her comm unit buzzed. A message from Commander Kai Blackwood, one of the few military leaders who'd taken her warning seriously. "Dr. Voss. Need to meet. Classified intel. Secure location Delta, 2100 hours." Zwaxtar read the message over her shoulder. "You trust this human?" "With my life," Rena replied. "He was the only one who believed me when I first noticed the pattern. Said it reminded him of old Earth strategies from the resource wars." She began gathering her data crystals. "Want to come along? Could use your expertise." The Axarani scientist's scales rippled with blue light, amusement. "And risk my standing with the council? They already consider me eccentric for working with a human." "Your loss," Rena said, shrugging into her weatherproof coat. "I'll send you an encrypted summary later." The rain had intensified when Rena left her lab, but she barely noticed. Her mind was already racing ahead, analyzing possibilities. The council's dismissal might have bought their enemies precious time, but it had also given her freedom to operate without oversight. Sometimes being ignored was an advantage. She arrived at the meeting point, an old maintenance tunnel deep beneath New Singapore's gleaming towers, 10 minutes early. Commander Blackwood was already there, his weathered face grave in the dim light. "They hit the Centauri mining outpost," she said without preamble. "I know." He activated a small holographic projector. "But that's not why I called you. Look at this." A new pattern of data points appeared, overlaying her own. Energy signatures. Resource movements. Troop deployments disguised as private security forces. all pointing to something massive building just beyond settled space. How did you get this? Rena whispered. Let's just say not everyone on the council is blind. Blackwood's expression was grim. We've got maybe 3 months before whatever this is breaks into the open. The question is, what do we do with that time? Rena stared at the combined data, mind racing. The council wouldn't help. Most of Earth's military leadership was too comfortable with peace to see the threat. But there were others, independent colonies, retired veterans, scientists who'd been watching the same patterns she had. We prepare, she said finally. Quietly. Under the radar. And we pray we're wrong about all of this. Blackwood nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. Because I've already started putting together a team. People who understand what we're facing. People who won't wait for official permission to do what needs to be done. The council will call it treason if they find out. The council won't matter much if we're right about what's coming. He held out a secure data chip. Are you in? Rena took the chip without hesitation. Being ignored had taught her patience. Had taught her to work in the shadows. Now those lessons might help save everything she cared about. I'm in. Where do we start? Thunder rolled across New Singapore's skyline as Rena studied the holographic display in her makeshift command center. What had once been a forgotten maintenance tunnel was now a hub of clandestine activity, filled with salvaged equipment and staffed by a growing network of believers. Status report, she called out, not looking up from the latest attack patterns. 3 more colonies gone dark in the past week, reported Lieutenant Jaina Singh, their communications specialist. Her fingers danced across multiple screens, correlating data from their scattered informants. Official reports blame equipment failure, but our drones caught energy signatures matching the previous attacks. They're getting bolder, Blackwood said from his station. The commander had aged years in the past month, but his eyes remained sharp. Moving faster than your original projections. Because no one's opposing them, Rena muttered. She expanded the galactic map, highlighting the growing zones of silence. Each successful strike encourages the next. The council's still calling these isolated incidents. The door chimed, admitting Ziwa-Xtar. The Axarani scientist had finally chosen sides after his own government dismissed his warnings. The prototype is ready, he announced, his scales flickering with excited oranges and reds. If your theories are correct, Dr. Voss, this should give us an advantage they won't expect. Rena followed him to the research bay, where a device the size of her palm floated in a containment field. It looked deceptively simple, a crystalline matrix surrounded by interlocking rings of an alien alloy. The product of human intuition and Axarani technology, combined with 3 months of desperate work. You're sure it can detect their cloaking fields? Blackwood asked, studying the device. Better, Ziwa-Xtar hummed. It can disrupt them. Their entire strategy relies on remaining invisible until the moment of attack. This will force them into the open. A priority alert flashed across their screens. Jaina's voice was tense, multiple contacts detected at the edge of the Procyon system. Energy signatures match our hostile profile. How many? Rena demanded, rushing back to the main display. At least 30 ships. Larger than anything we've seen before. Jaina's hands flew across her console. They're not even trying to hide anymore. Because they think they don't need to, Blackwood growled. How many of the defense platforms are online? 17, Rena answered. Not enough for a direct confrontation, but maybe enough for what I have in mind. She turned to Ziwa-Xtar. How quickly can you replicate that prototype? With the fabrication units running at maximum? Perhaps 40 units in 3 days. We don't have 3 days, Jaina interrupted. Their current trajectory puts them at Earth in less than 48 hours. Rena felt the weight of countless lives pressing down on her shoulders. Everything they'd predicted was happening, but faster, harder. The enemy had realized someone was preparing defenses and decided to strike before those preparations were complete. "Commander," she said, "decision made, it's time to activate the Sparrow Protocol." Blackwood's expression hardened. The Sparrow Protocol was their last resort, a desperate gambit that would expose their entire operation. "The Council will try to stop us. The Council can court-martial us after we save their lives." Rena activated the secure communication channel they'd prepared months ago. "This is Dr. Rena Voss to all Sparrow units. Authentication code Victor 9 Echo 7. Operation is now active. I repeat, Sparrow Protocol is active." Across Earth and the inner colonies, hidden cells of military personnel and civilian scientists began implementing carefully laid plans. Defense platforms that officially didn't exist powered up. Stockpiled weapons emerged from secret caches. Ships that had been quietly modified broke orbit, heading to predetermined rally points. "Message from Council Security," Jaina reported. "They're demanding we stand down and surrender ourselves for questioning." "Send them the complete data package," Rena ordered. "Everything we've gathered on the attacks, the patterns, the technology signatures. Let them choke on the evidence they've been ignoring." Multiple ships breaking orbit, Star announced, monitoring the tactical display. "Council Defense Force vessels. Their weapons are charged. Coming for us or preparing for the invasion?" Blackwood wondered. "Doesn't matter," Rena said. "We've got 36 hours to prepare Earth's defenses, with or without official approval. Jaina, send the coded signal to our allies in the outer colonies. Commander, activate our sleeper cells in the Council Defense Force. Star, we need that prototype replicated. Even a dozen units could make the difference." As her team rushed to comply, Rena studied the approaching enemy fleet. Their pattern was different now, more aggressive, more confident. They thought humanity would be easy prey, a fractured species too busy arguing among themselves to mount an effective defense. They were about to learn how dangerous a cornered human could be. "One more thing," she announced to her team. "Send a message to every human settlement and ship we can reach. Tell them." She smiled grimly. "Tell them the storm is finally here." The first shots of the war weren't fired by the largest ships or the most powerful weapons. They came from a small defense platform that, officially, didn't exist. "Platform 7 reports successful hit," Jaina announced, her voice tight with excitement. "Enemy cloaking field disrupted. We're getting our first clear scans of their technology." Rena leaned forward, studying the detailed images now flooding their screens. The alien vessel's design was unlike anything in Council records, all sharp angles and crystalline structures, more like a mobile city than a warship. And at its core. "That's impossible," Star whispered, his scales turning pale. "Those energy readings, they're using quantum fold technology. The Council banned that research centuries ago." "Apparently someone didn't get the memo," Blackwood said dryly. "How many ships have we exposed?" 3 out of their forward squadron," Jaina reported. "The rest are adjusting their formation. They know we can see through their cloak now." Rena watched the tactical display, where red dots representing enemy vessels were shifting into a new pattern. No longer the confident advance of an overwhelming force, but the cautious movements of predators suddenly aware they were being hunted. "All stations," she commanded, "execute pattern Omega. Let's show them what humanity's been preparing for." Across the solar system, hidden weapons platforms powered up. Automated drones launched from concealed bases on Mars and Venus. Ships that had been masquerading as civilian vessels revealed their true nature, weapons emerging from hidden compartments. The enemy fleet hesitated, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of defenses they hadn't detected. That moment of uncertainty was all humanity needed. Multiple direct hits, Jaina called out as the first coordinated strike landed. 2 enemy vessels disabled. 3 more showing significant damage. She paused, checking new data. They're launching fighters, hundreds of them. Activate the mine fields, Blackwood ordered. Space around Earth's primary defense lines lit up as thousands of automated weapons revealed themselves, creating a deadly web of overlapping fire zones. Council Defense Fleet is engaging, Zyxtar reported, his scales flickering with battle excitement. Admiral Zhou appears to have convinced them of the threat. Rena allowed herself a small smile. Zhou had been one of their earliest allies, quietly preparing his forces while maintaining the appearance of compliance with the Council's dismissal of her warnings. Now those preparations were paying off. But the enemy wasn't finished. Their remaining ships began emitting a strange energy field, one that made the tactical displays flicker and distort. They're attempting to quantum lock our defense grid, Zyxtar announced. If they succeed, our automated platforms will be frozen in normal spacetime. Not if I can help it, Rena muttered. She'd anticipated something like this, had spent months studying the theoretical physics behind quantum fold technology. Jaina, transmit frequency modulation sequence Delta to all platforms. Commander, have our ship switch to tight beam communications only. The enemy's quantum lock field encountered her countermeasures and shattered, its energy dispersing harmlessly. On the tactical display, she saw their formation waver again, experiencing what she hoped was confusion. They didn't expect us to understand their technology, she explained to her stunned team. They certainly didn't expect us to develop countermeasures. That's why they ignored us, they thought we were primitive, harmless. Message from the enemy flagship, Jaina announced suddenly. Text only, broadcasting on all frequencies. The message appeared on their main screen, written in formal council standard. Cease resistance. Your species is not ready for quantum fold technology. Surrender and accept quarantine. Well, Blackwood said with a grim smile, at least we know why they're here now. Respond on the same frequency, Rena ordered. Tell them humanity doesn't accept imprisonment for crimes we haven't committed. Tell them we've only begun to show what we're capable of. As if to emphasize her point, another wave of hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves, launching electromagnetic pulses specifically calibrated to disrupt quantum fold systems. 3 more enemy ships went dark, their crystalline structures dimming as their power cores shut down. They're pulling back, Jaina reported. Regrouping at the edge of the system. They'll be back, Blackwood warned. This was just their first wave, testing our defenses. Rena nodded, already analyzing the enemy's tactics and technology. They'd survived the initial assault, but this was far from over. The enemy had revealed both their motivation and their technological advantage. Now humanity had to prove they deserved their place among spacefaring races. Begin deploying the quantum fold detection buoys along their most likely approach vectors, she ordered. And get me a secure channel to Admiral Zhou. We need to coordinate with the Council fleet while we have time. What about the Council itself? Jaina asked. They're demanding explanations for our unauthorized military action. Tell them. Rena paused, considering her words carefully. Tell them Earth is under attack by an enemy using forbidden technology, and we're humanity's first line of defense. They can either help us or stay out of our way. As her team rushed to implement her orders, Rena studied the enemy fleet's retreat pattern. Something about it nagged at her intuition, a familiarity she couldn't quite place. Then it hit her. Show me the original attack pattern analysis, she demanded. The one from 6 months ago. The holographic display shifted, showing the spiral pattern of preliminary attacks. When overlaid with the enemy fleet's current position. They're not retreating, she realized. They're preparing to implement the same strategy on a larger scale. This isn't just about Earth anymore. She looked at her team, seeing the same understanding dawn in their eyes. They're planning to quarantine the entire sector. The quantum fold detector in Rena's lab pulsed with an urgent warning, its crystalline matrix vibrating at frequencies that made her teeth ache. She'd been studying captured enemy technology for 3 days straight, searching for answers. More activity on the sector border, Jaina reported, her voice hoarse from too many stims and too little sleep. They're establishing quantum anchor points every 50 light minutes. Building a containment fence, Blackwood observed. The commander looked as exhausted as the rest of them, but his tactical mind remained sharp. Like a net closing around the entire sector. Zwaxtar entered the lab, his scales dark with fatigue. You need to see this, Dr. Voss. He connected a data crystal to their main display. I've finished analyzing the enemy ship's database. The holographic display filled with images that made Rena's breath catch. Ancient ships, eerily similar to the enemy vessels they'd fought. Quantum fold technologies being used to reshape entire star systems. And destruction, worlds torn apart by forces they couldn't control. The precursor war, Zwaxtar explained. Over 10,000 years ago. The Council's oldest records speak of it, but I always thought they were exaggerated. They weren't trying to stop us from developing quantum fold technology, Rena realized, the pieces finally clicking into place. They were trying to prevent us from finding something. She pointed to a recurring symbol in the ancient data. What is that? It appears in multiple records, Zwaxtar confirmed. Always associated with something called the Nexus key. Rena's hands flew across her console, pulling up geographical surveys of Earth. Compare this symbol to geological formations, focusing on areas with unusual quantum signatures. The computer worked for several seconds before highlighting a location in the Pacific Ocean. A formation of underwater mountains that, when viewed from above, formed a pattern identical to the ancient symbol. That's why they came to Earth, she whispered. That's why they've been watching us for so long. We're sitting on top of something they're terrified we'll find. Incoming transmission from Admiral Zhou, Jaina announced. Priority 1. Zhou's holographic image appeared, his expression grave. Dr. Voss, we've decoded more of their communications. They're not just building a containment field, they're preparing to use Earth itself as an anchor point. The quantum stress would tear the planet apart. How long? Blackwood demanded. 24 hours, maximum. Their fleet is already moving into position. Rena stared at the ancient symbol, mind racing. We need a dive team. The best we have. And we need them at these coordinates in the next 6 hours. You want to find this Nexus key before they can destroy it, Blackwood said. It wasn't a question. No. Rena's eyes were hard. I want to use it. These beings, whatever they are, didn't ban quantum fold technology because it was dangerous. They banned it because they wanted to be the only ones who understood it. Dr. Voss, Zhou interrupted, the Council is convening an emergency session. They're voting on whether to surrender to the enemy's demands. Let them vote, Rena said. We've got a different plan. She turned to her team. Jaina, get me every deep-sea specialist still alive after the colony attacks. Zwaxtar, I need everything you can find about the Precursor War's quantum fold applications. Commander. Already on it, Blackwood said, activating his military channels. I assume we're about to do something incredibly dangerous and possibly illegal. For the first time in days, Rena smiled. They ignored us because they thought we were primitive. Let's show them just how wrong they were. The deep-sea carrier descended through darkness, its lights illuminating ancient stones carved with symbols that matched the enemy fleet's quantum signatures. Rena pressed her hand against the viewport, watching history and future collide. Final enemy warning, Jaina's voice crackled through the calm, they're threatening to begin planetary bombardment in 30 minutes. Let them try, Rena replied. Their defensive grid had been reconfigured according to the ancient data they'd decoded. Status of the dive team. In position, Blackwood reported from the surface. Waiting for your signal. The carrier settled on an undersea plateau, its lights revealing a massive structure half buried in sediment. At its center, a familiar crystalline formation pulsed with the same energy they detected in the enemy ships. The Nexus key, Zwaxtar breathed, his scales rippling with awe. It's been here all along. Rena led her team out of the carrier, their pressure suits equipped with quantum shielding based on captured enemy technology. As they approached the ancient device, its pulses grew stronger, more regular. It's recognizing our presence, she realized. It's been waiting. The enemy fleet chose that moment to attack. Above them, space lit up with quantum fold energies as they attempted to establish their containment field. Earth's defenders responded with everything they had, but they were badly outnumbered. Shields failing in multiple sectors, Zhou reported. We can't hold them much longer. Rena reached the Nexus key's central console. The symbols matched those in the ancient database perfectly. Humanity wasn't ignored because we were primitive, she announced to her team. We were ignored because we're the descendants of those who fought the first quantum war. The ones who hid this key. She pressed her hand against the crystal. It hummed in response, connections forming through her quantum-shielded suit. Information flooded her mind, not just about quantum fold technology, but about the beings who tried to control it. About their fears, their preparations, and their ultimate plan. Dr. Voss, Zhou's voice was urgent. Enemy ships are launching their final attack run. Let them come, Rena said softly. Through her connection to the Nexus key, she could feel Earth's quantum field responding. The enemy hadn't banned the technology to protect anyone. They'd banned it because humans had already proven they could master it. Above them, the enemy fleet's containment field reached full power. Space itself began to warp as they attempted to isolate Earth from the rest of the galaxy. But something was wrong. Their carefully calculated field was meeting resistance from patterns they hadn't detected, quantum anchors laid down 10,000 years ago by humans who'd known this day would come. Now, Rena commanded. The Nexus key pulsed once, brilliant and deep. The quantum patterns hidden beneath Earth's oceans activated, connecting with similar formations on Mars, Venus, and dozens of other seemingly natural formations throughout the solar system. In an instant, humanity's oldest weapon and greatest achievement revealed itself. The enemy fleet's containment field collapsed as their quantum fold technology was neutralized. Their ships, suddenly dependent on conventional drives, found themselves trapped by the very forces they tried to use against Earth. This is Dr. Rena Voss to all Earth forces, she transmitted. The enemy fleet is vulnerable. Take them. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. Without their quantum fold advantage, the enemy vessels proved no match for humanity's combined fleet. Within hours, it was over. Enemy commander requesting terms of surrender, Jaina reported, her voice thick with emotion. Rena looked at the ancient device that had helped save her world, understanding now why humanity had been left to develop on its own. Not because they were primitive, but because they needed to prove themselves worthy of their inheritance. Tell them. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Tell them humanity accepts their surrender, and we look forward to discussing the future of quantum fold technology with the Galactic Council. As equals. Above them, the stars shone clearly again as the quantum distortions faded. Earth had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger. The species that had been ignored had become not just a challenge, but a force that would reshape the galaxy. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other hidden keys waited to be found by those who'd proven themselves ready to face the responsibilities they brought. Well, Blackwood said, breaking the momentous silence, what do we do next? Rena smiled, already thinking of the possibilities the Nexus key had shown her. Now we show them what humanity can really do. End.